Hey, Mike with Nerd Problems Gaming here. In today's video, we'll be doing a review and how to play video on the new Smash Up Disney Edition board game, so let's get into it. Alright, so now that we got the game out, let's jump into a bit more on how you play the game so you have a better idea on how the game works, and then we'll jump into my review after that. So the goal of Smash Up is to be the first player to get 15 victory points. And to do that, you'll need to break various bases, and as you do that, you'll earn points depending on how you rank as the player with the most power at that base. And so to start the game, you're going to choose two different deck types, and then you'll combine them to form your deck throughout the game. And so each deck has their own unique play style. They have a difficulty level, as you can see here as well. So choose accordingly, and these base decks will combine together or smash up to form your deck as you play the game. So again, pretty simple. Let's say we take Big Hero 6 in this case, and then the Nightmare Before Christmas. We'll smash these together, shuffle them up, and this will form one player's deck. And then let's go with another player. We take the Lion King, and then Beauty and the Beast. Again, we smash these up, shuffle them together, forming the deck for that player. Now the next thing that you'll do is you'll take the base cards, and you'll do however many players you have, plus one. So in this case, we're playing a two-player game, so we'll take two bases plus one to form the bases for the game. Now the other side of the bases are little cheat sheets, so you can give your players one of these as well to help them out throughout the game. The next thing you want to do is take all the base cards of the character types you're playing as. So in this case, we've got Nightmare Before Christmas, we've got Big Hero 6, Lion King, and then Beauty and the Beast. So we'll take these all, shuffle them together, and then lay out three bases on the base mats to start the game. Now the next part of the base setup is looking at the power total required to break the base, which is always at the top left of the base card. And then you'll want to put these P and B tokens indicating where the break point is for the card, and then where the power level of the players are at on the card. So as you can see, we've got Pride Rock set up with the break point of 19, and the players starting at 0 because they haven't played any cards there yet. And then the same would apply for the other bases we're using right now. Now the player that most recently watched an animated Disney movie will go first, or again, you can just randomly decide who's going to go first. Now also to start the game, both players will draw 5 cards from their deck. Now when it comes to taking your turn, there's several phases that you'll go through each turn. And so to start, you can play different cards, and you'll have the ability to play one character card and one action. You can do both, you can do one, or you can do neither if you choose to. So when it comes to playing cards, if you play a character, what you'll do is you'll place it next to the base, and then you'll earn power equal to the number in the top left corner. So in this case, we got a power of 2, so we'll move it up to 2. And then you'll also read the ability listed on the card and see if that's something you'll activate during this turn. So each card also has unique abilities on it, as you can see. Some of them are one-time uses, some of them are talents that you can use every turn, some of them are ongoing effects, and there's also special abilities that will activate at a specific time. Now the bases also have abilities listed on the card, and so these could be another ability you might use during your turn, or at the start of your turn, depending on what the base has as its abilities. So again, just something to pay attention to while you play. So again, for this turn, like I said, you can only play one character and an action or a combination of that. There's other cards that are actions that take an effect. There's actions like this one that are character modifiers, which you basically will equip to a character, giving them some new ability. There's also base modifiers, which will modify the location where this card is at. And then again, will affect your characters or potentially other characters based on what the card says. So again, let's just say I put this base modifier here. I'll skip going into what it all does, but let's say that was my 2 actions. At this point, now what I'll do is draw 2 cards for the player from their draw deck, and then it will go to the other player. Now there's some other different things that you might encounter while playing. Some cards, for example, will add power tokens to characters, so you can simply place one of these tokens onto a character card if they earned one. And now we can also get to scoring a base, which is how you'll earn victory points throughout the game. So we'll flash forward to a later point in the game as an example so you can see how bases score. And so let's say, for example, it's the team that's Big Hero 6, Nightmare Before Christmas. It's their turn. And right now the base is sitting at 18 power, but the base would break at 19 power. And so let's say I have this character card from a hand, I play it, it's worth 4 power. We've now broken the base because the power level went above that. Now let's say it's the end of the turn and we're calculating victory points to see who gets what. So when this happens, you'll discard all the cards at that base, removing the power tokens, and then the cards get discarded to their team's respective piles. And then you're going to break down the base in terms of victory points based on who had the most power in descending order. So in this case, the Nightmare Before Christmas team had the most power there, so they would get 3 victory points. So on all the power token sides, there's the power token side and the victory point side. So I could just give them 3 victory points and then give that to the player. Now we look at the other player. They would earn 2 points because they had the next lowest score. So again, 2 victory points for them. And they'll just keep this next to their character. You'll then discard this base and flip up a new one. And then again, you'll reset the power back to 0. Set the base to its breaking point, in this case 24. And then you'll continue to the other player's turn. Now again, play will continue back and forth like this between players until the first player reaches 15 victory points, and the first player to do that will win the game. Now again, obviously there's some more in-depth rules within the game, so consult the rulebook on how everything works, especially if you have questions on specific cards and abilities. But this is the general idea of how the game works, so now that you have a better idea on how it's played, let's jump into the review. Well, now that you have a better idea on how the game works, how do I actually feel about it? Well, I think the Smash Up concept is pretty cool. This is actually the first one I've played in the series. And so as you saw in the how to play section, the basics of how the game works is you'll take 2 decks of cards featuring different characters, or in this case, different movies, and mash them together. And that builds your base deck that you'll then use to play cards like characters and actions to gain points on different bases in order to break the base and then score points based on the amount of power you have on that base. And so the concept is relatively simple. The turns aren't too incredibly difficult either, where all you'll need to do is play an action and a character, or some combination of those. So you don't necessarily need to play a character or play an action, and then you'll draw cards at the end of your turn. And if you happen to have broken a base on your turn, you'll score those points accordingly. Now, even though that concept is pretty simple, the decks and combination of decks that you choose can make it a lot more complicated and really increase the strategy you need to put into your turn. On top of that, some decks are a lot more difficult to play as compared to others, but that is listed right on the card talking about the deck, so you have a little bit of insight going into it, how strategic you might need to be when playing certain decks or combinations of decks. And so I definitely like that. I think that adds to the replay value of the game because you can have all kinds of different unique combinations with the various different Disney characters. And so I like that aspect of the game. But one thing I'll say that was a little bit of a downside, as this was my first time playing a Smash Up game. I think the rulebook could use some areas of improvement. Some aspects were a little confusing, and then some cards themselves, we just kind of had to come to a general agreement on how we'd move forward or apply the rules listed on the cards. Some of them didn't necessarily have the clearest explanation, and so we still aren't sure how we were supposed to act with them, and just did our best guess on it. Now that definitely wasn't enough to make us never want to play the game or anything like that, but just something to keep in mind. You might be better off watching some different videos on how to play the game versus reading the rulebook directly, as some of the things were a lot more confusing than they needed to be, and when we watched it in a video form the first time on how to play, it was much easier to digest. Another cool thing with the game is the fact that you can mix and match this Smash Up with other versions of Smash Up and play those together. So I think if you're a Disney fan and want to play with other versions of Smash Up, that's a cool option to do, and I would recommend the game in that case. I also think they could definitely have additional Disney versions of Smash Up. Obviously, there's only so many characters and movies that they were able to put into this game, and I think there's a lot more they could have chosen from, which could lead to a bunch of different Disney expansions for the game as well. But overall, I think the game had a great replay value. It wasn't too terribly difficult to learn, even though the rulebook could be improved a little bit. It wasn't super long to play the game. Most games will probably take you around 45 minutes to an hour and a half, depending on how strategic and difficult the decks are you're playing with. You can play from 2 to 4 players, and I think it plays well as a 2-player version, and will probably get more intense the more players you add to the game. as each player will then be fighting over the different bases, and the bases will break a lot faster with more players playing and contributing power to the bases, so you might not have as many turns to really strategize if you hope to be the player with the most power at the base when it breaks. But let me know in the comments below, do you guys like the Smash Up series? Have you played this Disney version yet? You think you'll pick up this one now that you've seen this video? Let me know in the comments below if there are other Smash Up versions I should try that you maybe like better than this, or that you think are good as well. Let me know in the comments below. And if you want to pick up a copy of this game, there'll be a link in the description below where you can do so. And if you like this video, be sure to smash that like button as it really helps out the channel. And if you like videos like this on video games, board games, and everything nerdy, check out one of our other videos here. And be sure to subscribe and turn on the bell notifications to get the latest updates of new nerd videos we put out. But once again, thanks for tuning in, and we'll talk to you more soon.